Hey, Mayhem family, we're really excited. We have something a lot different for you today, and hopefully we'll be doing a lot more of this. But I am joined by the head honcho and the director of Mayhem Athlete, Jake Lockhart, and the 8th fittest woman on earth, and the recent champion of Wadapalooza, Emma Cary, who is now a Mayhem Athlete. So really, Emma, the reason we wanted to have you up here is you've been here for a while. We've gotten to hang out with you, but we haven't formally introduced you really to Mayhem at home and the people who kind of digest our content. And we just wanted to it's just sit down as to get to know you and to chat. So we're really glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. It's been great to be here.
Good. And I mean, let's just start there because it's the obvious place. You've been in Mayhem now for a couple of months. Yeah. Like, how do you settle in? How do you like Cookville?
Oh, man, I love it. And I've loved it from the beginning. Like, everybody was just so genuinely welcoming to me, like going out of their way above and beyond to make me feel welcome here and wanted and just like a part of it. So, I mean, it's always like kind of scary to be in a new place, new
Sure.
people, like people just do things differently here than what I'm used to. But it wasn't a hard adjustment because I just immediately felt so comfortable with everybody. And like in the last couple months, especially, those relationships have just been growing. So it's been great. And you brought some relationships with you. And we're going to unpack all this stuff, but like just to kind of set the scene, it wasn't as if you came here and you knew nobody. You brought one, your coach, and then a couple of training partners too. Like, tell me about that relationship, because Jake gave me the nitty gritty, and I think I understand, but I think it's a really deep friendship that I don't know everything about. Yes. So we can actually back up like my relationship with Dom 4 years to Wadapalooza of 2020 is where I met him. I was coached by Matt Torres with Brute Strength.
Yep.
And Dom was assisting him because Matt had just a ton of athletes at Wadapalooza this year. And honestly, like, didn't get to know Dom super well. Like, he wrote my warm-ups, took me through them, like, kind of calmed me down when I got nervous. And he really made an impact on me then, but I sure had no idea, like, what was coming. I think towards the end of that year, we did a camp in Naples.
So wait, let me ask.
Yes,
You're
sorry.
saying, so to that point, he had been writing your warm-ups, and like you had interaction with him, but it was just digital or something. And so,
yep, and just in competition.
Okay.
That was the first time I met Dom, and it was like just a stranger, not even my coach, really
Sure.
taking me through these warm-ups. But it was like, just had no idea what was coming, but looking back on it, it's like that was special. Fast forward like several months, probably almost a year, to a camp we did in Naples. At this time, I was living in Missouri. So it was my first time, like, just being around other training, like high-level training partners. Getting to work with Matt and Dom was just an incredible experience. And I was like, I want this every day. So it was like about that time that I started thinking, like, could I move here? What if I went to college in or around the Naples area? Got to be coached by Matt full-time, and like, this seems like the logical next step.
Sure.
Like, there had been several times in my like career that like up to that point where it was like, I'm going to step away from the class workouts and start writing my own programming. And then it was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to get a coach. And then it was like, I've gone about as far as I can as a remote athlete. I need something more. I need to be in person.
And this will be a theme of the whole interview, but like, you speak as if you're, older than me. Like, you're very mature for your age, but like, for context of what you're talking about, at the time you were what, 16, 17?
Yeah.
17 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, you had already gone through a massive progression, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's when you were kind of trying to take this next step.
Your fitness journey is unique to you. At Mayhem Athlete, we'll be right by your side every step of the way. Whether your goal is to become a CrossFit Games champion or staying fit for life, we have programs for all fitness levels. Join the Mayhem Athlete family and train like a champion today.
Yeah, so ended up moving to Naples in January of 2022 with a back injury. Like, right after all that had happened, a lot of big changes all at once there.
What happened with your back injury? I'm even vaguely aware, but I don't even totally know exactly how it happened and what went into it.
In Dubai, with just kind of like a fluke thing with some sandbag cleans.
Oh, that's right.
I can look back on it now and see years of terrible positions and pushing myself to failure way too often, and like see that one weird sandbag clean was probably not what caused it.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of like the last straw. with it.
And what was the actual, was there a diagnostic like?
It wasn't super clear.
Okay.
On the MRIs.
Okay. But lots of pain.
Yes.
Certainly inhibited your ability to compete.
Yes. Yeah. So like ended up taking that year off. But my point was saying that was like when I moved to Naples, I was really going through it. Like I had never had to deal with anything like this before. Like everything, I don't want to say everything had always come easy to me. Cause like I really don't have a sports background. So like there were a lot of skills and just like body awareness stuff. And even now I'll be like, what am I doing? But
that blows me away. Like literally no competitive sports.
Yeah.
I heard you say that in another interview and I was like, I mean, that's wild. So you just had this massive ball of, competitive energy that was inside of you.
Yeah.
Did it show up in other ways? Like, are you super competitive as a person? No.
Really,
wow.
No.
So
and then that
Yeah.
And then that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. I mean, you certainly had a lot of success very early on. I mean, how long was it from trying CrossFit to competing as a teenager?
5 years. But I started CrossFit when I was 10.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, like my point was saying that was like CrossFit for me up to that point had just been consistent, steady, not even always steady, like some crazy improvement. Like when you're 12,
sure,
you can hit a 30-pound PR like every time you touch a barbell. And like that doesn't happen anymore. But like I just kind of grew to expect that stuff. And so to be forced to not just take a step back, not like just lighten the load on the barbell or whatever, but pretty much Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would do like upper body bodybuilding, like back supported curls, strict press, lateral raise, like not a lot of options there. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I would do like a bike workout. Like it felt like everything.
Sounds like a great week to me. I mean, that's pretty much what I'm doing now.
But it really felt like everything I had, my entire identity, purpose, like was just taken away. So yeah, really going through it in Naples, like had an amazing group of people around me. Like my coach at this time, Matt, was incredible. Like I really only have good things to say about that experience, even though like I did leave, but he has a big role to play in like why I'm where I am right now. But it also like, it wasn't just him. It was that entire group of people there that I don't know if I could have gotten through that time without him or without them. Like it was my training partners. It was Dom. It was like the church. It was this little Bible study we did. We just really grew closer together. And I feel like I had a relationship with these people outside of the gym too. Yeah. So it was like they didn't just care about Emma the athlete, which was very important in that time because I really wasn't Emma the athlete.
Well, and can I ask you something about that? Because of course what makes total sense is like in the gym, a great coach can put you on the path towards what you need for rehabbing and getting back into physical shape. But like, were you putting concerted effort into the mental side of things too? Because I mean, not everybody would digest these lessons in the same way that you did as a 17-year-old. Yeah. So what were those things that you were doing to kind of...
honestly, a lot of them weren't good. I feel like I am somebody who, in the past especially, has taken all of that a little too far. And there's things, like there's lessons from that you can't force. Mm-hmm. Like you don't always need to look for the lesson. Like it's just going to take time for you to see like what you learned during that time and how you're different now. Yeah. It's not just like something you see and then you decide you're going to be different because you've been through this and then like you just do the same thing again.
Sure.
I was really aware of how I was handling things, and like I often wasn't handling the things in the way I wanted to be, like in a way that would really make me proud. So yeah, I was really struggling during this time. I
mean, attitude-wise, like in the gym or out of the gym, or
it's like if you fail a lift, or even like more going back to the back injury, like say 1 week I'm snatching 55 pounds, and I'm like, wow, this is such a win. This is my first time snatching in like maybe 6 months, whatever. And then the next week I try to go up to 75 pounds and it hurts. Yeah. Like the way that I would want to handle that is with a lot more faith than what I had. Not be like, is God even hearing my prayers? Is any of this worth it? Like, why would he put me through this? Like, there can't be good in this situation, but just be like, this is all going to work together for my good. Like Romans 8:28, maybe that is not my good in CrossFit. Like there were points during that injury that I was like, I don't know if I can come back from this. Like this injury might not be the reason I win the CrossFit Games in 5 years or whatever. Like, but it's going to be for my good, as in like me knowing more of Christ, me conforming more to Christ, and like having faith through the highs and lows that like that's all I could really want anyway. Like that's all that could really satisfy me anyway, instead of just like trying to take control and depending on myself and like feeling like everything I have, everything I desire is all wrapped up in this stuff, and just being like, God, this sport, like I love it a lot and I hope I can do it at a high level for a very long time. But if I can't, like, you're all I really want anyway. I definitely couldn't have put that into words at this time, but that's how I wish I would have handled it now. And yeah, like at that point in my faith, I just really wasn't there, and I was so dissatisfied, and I didn't really know why, because I didn't know as much about how, satisfying God is and how empty that the things of this world will leave me that I do now. But yeah, that's an example.
Sure.
Kind of long. Sorry.
I'd love to hear Jake talk to this too. But I mean, especially, well, in every context, but especially in the context of someone who has put in hard work and seen the outcome, it is very, very difficult to let go and say, hey, thy will be done. So I can only imagine, especially at your age at the time, like it really does blow me away. But kind of before we leave that topic, I think what's also important to say is clearly that's been the outcome, because your interviews at Wodapalooza were tremendous, where you clearly had come to this end point, right? But I think it's also really cool and important for people at home to hear that during that process, it wasn't always like there were bad days, there were breakdowns, there were freakouts. You're still human.
More days than not were a little rough.
I think they only get to, when you only get to see you amazing athletes a couple times a year and their interviews after an event win, you only see those highlights. And so I love being able to make sure that people remember there's some very, very human things that you guys got to go through too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Those are not 19-year-old words of wisdom coming out. That's much wisdom beyond your years. Yeah, it reminds me, like Romans 8:28 is a great verse. I'm in James 1 all the time because like everyone's struggles are different, but everyone's in their struggles. That just reminds me of there. It says, "Count all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. The testing your faith produces steadfastness. Let steadfastness have its full effect. You may be perfect, complete, lacking nothing." But when you're being made steadfast, you don't feel that perfect completeness, lacking nothing. And we're like Psalm 23, when it says, "I won't fear anything, even though I go through the valley of shadow of death, because you're with me, your rod and your staff comfort me." But we're in the valley of shadow of death. It's hard to see those things and like see the other side. It's like when you're in that season in 2022, man, as a 17-year-old, I guess, were you going to college early at the time?
I did not. I ended up not going and just moving to Naples for CrossFit.
Gotcha. You'd moved injured, so you couldn't really compete that year. Like in the midst of that, how long did it take you to go from some of that hopelessness and like trying to find joy to where some acceptance and like, growing your faith into where I'm going to try, but either way, like I'm going to trust in the Lord that it's going to be okay one way or another, but some peace in that. So in that process, like where did you start to find that peace and like trust the process, either way, of being okay with the outcome?
Yeah. This is probably a bad answer, but like a few weeks ago.
That's a great answer.
Great answer.
No, that's like real. Yeah. It took years.
It did.
It doesn't take days or weeks.
Yeah. And it wasn't me. Like I just had to realize like I'm not the one who can change my desires. Like if winning is an idol to me, if winning, like, not that it's a bad desire, but anything that I desire more than I desire God is a bad desire. And if it keeps me from, if it puts me in such a place of like self-centeredness that I can't serve the people around me in the gym, that I'm not looking for opportunities to serve outside of the gym, then like in my life, it was a bad desire. And like there were times much earlier that became very clear to me. And it's not like, it would be so nice if that's how life worked. Like you could just be aware, like, oh, this is wrong, I'll just choose a different path. But it's like sinful human nature. And like, I saw this in myself and I prayed for that idol to be taken away, like whatever that looked like. And I feel like at Wodapalooza, God really revealed more of himself to me in just like a sense of peace in the outcome, like the outcome of Wodapalooza, but also like whatever the outcome of my CrossFit career or like my life is. Like Wodapalooza was so special to me because it was so much bigger than CrossFit, and it's actually like this. I give the longest answers. I'm sorry,
That's
but this is like
there's no time limit.
This is the third time that I have gone into the final event of a competition, either tied for first or within 3 points of first. And the first was at the 2021 Granite Games, and like I realized this right after the event, and it's like, wow, like God made it clear to me, because I don't think I would have seen it otherwise. But this workout ended with I want to say it was a 45-foot double dumbbell overhead walking lunge with the 50s. Like nothing crazy, nothing I hadn't practiced in training before. I was in a points tie with Ariel Lowen for first, and she competed so well that weekend, so humbly, so God glorifying. And honestly, like I was just there to win. Like I was there to win at any cost. And I remember standing in the corrals before the event. We both knew we were tied for first, obviously. Like whoever won that event was going to win semifinals. And she was like, hey, like, good luck. You got this. And I was like, what? Like,
how dare you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like kindness was intimidating to me then. But went through that workout.
That is a really cool story. Just so,
yeah. But I had a pretty big lead on her, I think through like 9 devil's press or something, like decent lead. And the lunges were in 3 15-foot sections. I was also pretty close to like, not points-wise on the overall leaderboard, but for the event win, I was close to somebody else. And I was like, I don't just want to win the Granite Games. I want to make a statement. I'm going to hang on to these dumbbells, and I'm going to like pass this girl, and I'm going to win the event, and I'm going to win the Granite Games. I want this for me. I want this for my own glory. I want to make a statement. I want people to notice me. Like there was all this stuff, and everything was going great. And then like I just dropped the dumbbells on my head. Like my arms just completely give out. And this was like over the last 15-foot line, my front foot of the lunge had crossed, and it was as I was standing up that I failed. So then like I had to bring it back 15 feet. Ariel was right there, had to go right into it, failed again, went right into it, failed again.
Oh, no.
Spent the rest, like did not even finish that workout, got time capped, could not finish that 15-foot lunge. And I was absolutely crushed. Like I thought, and at this time I thought I was crushed because I didn't win. And like that was most of it, because winning was everything to me. But just like how Ariel treated me after that event kind of got in my head, just how kind she was. And I was like, she is so nice. But I was just like, I do not feel that way towards my competitors.
Yeah.
Like, and that's horrible to admit now. But I hear her talking, like, obviously as the winner, she's the one who gets to be on the microphone. I had not gotten an opportunity to speak, so it hurt. Like as I was walking off the floor to hear her talking, and she was talking about God, and it just made me think, like, I wouldn't have done that. Like I wouldn't have been kind to my competitors. I wouldn't have used this as an opportunity to glorify God. I was here for me. And like that felt bad. And I was like really aware that wasn't right. But I didn't really desire anything else, if that makes sense, because I was still like holding so tightly to the goal of winning. And then fast forward to semis this year, I was in a tie for points going into the final event with Danielle Brandon, who I knew was going to do well in that event. Like I also knew it was a good event for me, but in any kind of, short event like that, you kind of have to take a risk, and it's like, you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like it's not a long event where, you can maybe make a mistake and fight your way back. Like I know that I'm going to be going out on this echo bike at a pace that like, maybe I'm going to blow up and not be able to pick the sandbag up later. But like that's a risk I'm going to have to take if I want to win.
And for context, I happen to know this. Emma is unbelievably good at echo bike for her size. And Dom's told me in 10 minutes she did 180 calories for her max test as a girl, which I would have trouble holding right now.
100%.
So like you have no business to have the output in echo bike you do. So
Thanks.
you're a great echo bike.
I do like the echo bike. But like going into this event knowing that I am pretty strong on an echo bike, like there is some level of confidence there, but I just remember standing in the corrals with so much fear that I wasn't going to win, and then everything would be like a waste, like everything, which is ridiculous, but it felt like everything I had done up to that point would be wasted, would be for nothing if I didn't beat her in this event and win semifinals. Like, honestly, who cares about winning semifinals? But that was how it felt. And I even told one of my friends, like, pretty, like, not long before I took the floor, like, if I don't win, I'm not going to be okay. Like, winning was still everything to me, even though I did genuinely have the desire to glorify God out there that I didn't have at the Granite Games in 2021. Like, I wanted to glorify God more than anything, but I really didn't. Like, I was still holding so tightly to winning, still didn't have that, like, faith in his plan. And, you know, like, I couldn't let go of that. So I ended up winning, and it wasn't as joyful as I thought it would be. It was more like relief, like that everything hadn't been wasted, and like all of these really irrational things I was thinking didn't come true. And so, like, from the outside, that time looked like it went better than the Granite Games in 2021 did, but it, like, internally, did it really? Like, my thoughts, my desires, my intentions weren't necessarily that much more God glorifying than they were at the Granite Games in 2021, even though, like, from the outside perspective, like, I got an opportunity to speak and I did share my faith. Like, I posted a Bible verse, whatever. Like, there was stuff like that, but I still wasn't doing this for the right reasons, and that bothered me. So this was like one last chance, or not last chance, but one chance to, like, see my growth and my sanctification in that way, and the work that I feel like God has done in my life. Like, it was so clear to me when I was standing in the corrals for the last event, and it was like, God, I genuinely want your will more than anything, because that's gonna be what allows me to know more of you, know the most of you, like, make my life look most like Christ, like, whatever that looks like. I mean, whatever good or bad thing is about to happen on the competition floor, like, it is going to be for good, because that is what the Bible says. And, like, I don't even care if that's my good within CrossFit. Like, I don't care if in that moment, and I'm not saying this is like these desires are gone,
because you're still a human.
Yeah. But like, in that moment, it was like, you know, I don't care about the money. I don't care about what people think about me. I don't care if I'm, like, still the athlete that nobody talks about or whatever. Like, I don't care if it feels like, you know, the work I've done in training doesn't translate over to the competition floor like how I would like it to. Like, none of that stuff was as important to me in that moment as it was, like, wow, like, what a blessing it is that this sport that I do love so much is a platform for me to experience more of who God is and just, like, his good character. And that was my thought standing in the corrals, like, you know, 3 points up on Gabby, I believe. So it was like really, really no room for error in that workout, but it was like, and I don't mean this in a way that's like CrossFit's not important or I don't take it seriously, but it was like, this isn't going to matter in eternity. Like, this isn't what lasts. Like, this is a perishable thing that I don't want to build my entire life on. Like, when I have something that's so much more joyful, so much more satisfying, so much more lasting, like, that's what I want to care about. And, like, that also didn't take away from my ability to do my work with excellence. So, yeah.
It's really it's so much more fun to compete from that place of, like, really freedom. That's good. What's something you maybe did other than, like, those 2 semifinal experiences, which really has molded you and shaped you, but there's, you know, 365 days outside of that before it happens again. Like, what's some things just day to day, week to week, like, you're doing to help you grow in that person you want to become? Because I can relate, like, there's things I want. I don't want to do those things a lot of times, and I wish my desires were changed. A lot of times it is with the Lord, or maybe it's with some spending time with family. Some nights I'm tired. I want to do this, but I don't want to, or this work. What's some things you've done to help, like, change you on a consistent basis outside of those big experiences?
Yeah. Like the biggest thing is making like my Bible, any kind of like books that are going to help me understand like things I would normally miss, but are still very Bible based. Prayer, and surrounding myself with people who are, you know, desiring the same things that I desire, and kind of like going back to how I ended up here at CrossFit Mayhem. Like that's a big part of why I even asked Dom to coach me, was right after the games this year. And, you know, it wasn't only like the coaching that I wanted to change. Like it wasn't like I didn't feel like I could win the CrossFit Games with where I was at with Brood or anything like that. Like it genuinely wasn't that. I just felt like I could, you know, be prepared for God's purposes for me better in, you know, a different environment surrounded by different community. And like there was more to the decision than that. But like that was ultimately why I asked Dom to coach me, because I understood, you know, how like iron sharpens iron, and then on the other hand, like bad company corrupts good character, and like this is biblical, and not that like anyone at Brute was bad company, and
Sure.
like please don't take it like that, but like people who don't do CrossFit for the reasons I do CrossFit, like, or I want to do CrossFit. I mean, at this time it was still like I was doing it for myself and I wanted to get out of that, but it is hard, you know, it's hard when like just to be set apart from how other people are living, when it's just, it feels like all you're surrounded by. Not that like people are living their lives in a bad way. And I feel like that was how I'd always justified things like that. And also like, not that I'm an expert or anything, but it's not like we shouldn't be around people who don't exactly line up with our faith on everything. Like it is not that at all. But it's like, if I want to be working so closely with people, I mean, it's not enough just to be like, it's not enough for God just to be like good people, because we're really not good people. Like it's so much deeper than that. And to be in a community that understands that, now the people I'm around inspire me in that way, just by the way they live their lives. Like you can see how different it is. You can see like their desire for God above anything else in just their actions. Like not only even their words. Like that's important. I mean, it's important to, you know, learn and like hear truth from the people in your life. But if that doesn't align with like the way they're living their lives, it doesn't inspire you like watching the people here. Like, I mean, watching how they handle things that don't go their way, like watching how they serve others and lead and pour into other people. That's been something like, on one hand, it's kind of convicting when it's like, wow, I am really not doing that. But then on the other hand, it's like they are just as human as I am, but they're doing this for a purpose that's not human. And it makes it seem, you know, it makes it all feel so much more real when it's something you're surrounded by day in, day out, apart from just, you know, like reading the Bible in the morning, praying at night. Like it's not like you just fit God into your routine. It's like, I want this to be my entire life. Yeah.
I mean, it's again, it's just tremendous insight and at your age to have that point of view. And the simple fact, I guess, is like, it's not even comparing different groups necessarily. It's just saying like, I have a choice who I want to spend time with, and I want to be this certain way. So I'm going to make sure that I'm constantly curating the group of people that are affecting me most, which I couldn't respect more. I didn't have that insight at your age, you know, if I'm being honest. So, and it's great to hear that the experience at Mayhem has been that for you. And we sort of we hit fast forward and we kind of went down a competition pathway when we were talking about that Iron Sharpens Iron group. So can we go back to that?
Absolutely.
This group that you were really close friends with, and you know, Jake touched on it, like what you do outside of the gym. But who is this group besides Dom, and like how have they kind of helped you?
Oh yeah. So it's like really the group that's moved down here. In Naples, we also had my best friend Olivia Sulik. who moved, like her story is one of the most inspiring and convicting things to me because she moved to Naples for CrossFit and, you know, wanted to win, I would say, like on a very similar level to what I did. Like it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like she just didn't care about this or anything. Like she cared so much, but she felt like CrossFit wasn't where she could serve God the best. So she stepped away from CrossFit. And, you know, like when she told me that, I was like, I don't know if I would be willing to do the same. So we were actually roommates. So to get to, you know, again, just like see how people live their lives and see like even big moments like that where your actions really do line up with what you say you believe is inspiring. And then another friend I have, Harper, also had a huge impact on my life. I think Harper's 25 or 6. So she's like older than me, a lot more experienced, and was just really able to guide me through things. Like a lot of the back injury, like mental breakdown kind of stuff, like she was there for. She saw Dom at this time in Naples was leading a John Bible study with like a little group of us. And, you know, that was kind of my first introduction to theology beyond just like, Jesus loves me and he died for my sins, which is true, but there's a whole lot more to it than that. And the first time I feel like I really started to recognize like why Jesus had to die for me, because I am so sinful and not able to do good apart from that. Like I'm not earning anything by being a good person or like anything that I used to think. So yeah, that was like kind of my core group in Naples, and it made it a lot easier of a transition that a lot of them are here in Cokeville now.
Yeah, I love that. The funny thing for me is, I mean, he articulates it a lot differently, and obviously there's different parts of your separate stories, but, you know, Rich's kind of famous story is really what happened to him in his first games was his ego was damaged and bruised, and he had put a lot of stock into it, his image, and that's when he rededicated himself to Christianity, and that affected tons and tons of people. It was an amazing message, like myself included. So I think it's really cool the way that you can share and the way that you can articulate it. And like I said, it's wisdom beyond your years. So kudos for that. I would love to talk about some specific Mayhem stuff, but before that, I'm trying to make sure that I unpack all of my questions because there's a lot. But I guess I had assumed that. So you had the year where you finished 18th, 19th, 16th. Pardon me.
Pretty much 18th or 19th.
But you came from dead last.
Oh,
right.
This last year,
you went from last to 8th.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so, where were you in this mental space at that point? Because that seems like to me.
Yeah.
I would have completely assumed that you were in current mental headspace, because to do that is tremendously difficult, right? To keep your head on straight, to have that bad of a start to the games, then to finish that well.
Yeah. It was pretty rough, and it is all thanks to the people behind me that I feel like I was able to, you know, get it back together like that. Man, there's a lot to this story, and like a lot that I won't share. But yeah, started the games with a bike event. Not something I'm comfortable with, but I never expected it to be as bad as it was. Finished in last by a very significant amount.
It's not funny. It isn't, but at the time I just remember I had in my head, I was like, this poor girl is so far behind.
Yeah.
Finishing last. I remember you brought it back. You brought it back.
Yeah, and I can laugh about it somewhat now. Yeah, if I don't laugh, I'll cry.
You got
laugh.
Yeah. So yeah, started the games like that. Came back with a pretty good event. I think I finished 4th. Messed up the handstand walk that night. Finished maybe like 17th. And then the next morning was the alpaca, an event that I should do okay in. Not like I knew I wasn't just the greatest at legless rope climbs, but I definitely wasn't as bad as what happened out there. Just, you know, went out a little too hot, went up for a rope climb before I was ready, hit failure maybe like 7 minutes in, and rested 3 minutes, hit the rope climb, rested 3 minutes, like failed again, rested 3 minutes, failed again, like was burning my hands. I mean, it was a mess. And like at this point, honestly, I think I was in 25th, and I had gone into the games with like podium hopes. So it was very realistic that probably wasn't going to happen. Already 4 events in, And then like a sandbag squat event was kind of, in a way, that's where the games kind of turned around for me, even though I would say it was also my lowest moment of the games. And I don't think I've really gotten to talk about this on a podcast or anything, but I kind of went out on the floor already a little bit defeated. Like, it was hard to believe that I could still do anything well after like basically all of the events up to that point going so badly, whether it was a skill of just like biking, not really knowing how to turn well, get on and off well, or whether it was like a fitness thing like the handstand walk was, or whether it was like a strategy thing like the rope climb was. Like, I didn't feel like I had trust in any of my abilities. So I went out like, I don't want to say expecting to fail, but kind of in a place where like once I got to failure on the sandbag squats, I was like, I'm not even surprised anymore. And it was definitely the lowest competition moment that I've had. Yeah, it was just, it was scary to feel like I had no belief in myself left, and we weren't even halfway through the games.
Wow.
And yeah, came off the floor very upset. Like in competition, I'm normally someone who can like pretty well keep it together. Like could not after this event. Ended up going back to my hotel room.
Did you place in that sandbag event? Do you remember?
I want to say 17th.
Okay.
So compared to the weekend I had been having up to that point, could have been worse. Yeah. But for what I knew I was capable of in that event, it was very disappointing. And just the thoughts I was having in that event were what disappointed me more than anything, because they're not thoughts that align with who I want to be. But I went back to my hotel room, and then my friends Harper and Olivia, who I talked about earlier, came over and like just spoke such truth into me. And like, I have heard so many times that CrossFit is not what I do, or CrossFit is not who I am. It's just what I do. Like, I feel like I'm kind of numb to that statement at this point. Like, yes, it's true, but it doesn't always feel true in those moments. But honestly, like, I don't even fully remember what they said, but the things that they told me and how loved I felt by them in that moment, like regardless of what happened over the next 7 events, just gave me so much freedom to really like turn the games around. I could be wrong on this, but I don't think I finished outside of 11th or 12th after that point in the weekend, which is also a reflection of what the events were, not just like me miraculously pulling it together. But I was in a completely different headspace, just feeling loved, you know, not that I would have said I didn't feel like that before, but truly understanding the level of support that these people have for me, completely separate from whatever I do in the gym. Like, you know, people say, oh, we're going to be here for you no matter what. But in moments like that, like, they can really prove it.
Yeah.
So I would like to say, like, I'm resilient and I can move on from things in the past. And, like, I would like to, there's part of me that's like, yeah, you know, that's me. I can take credit for that. But, like, really I can't. And it's those people that remind me of the truth and, like, where my identity really is, even in the moments I don't want to hear it, and, like, support me and love me unconditionally through those moments, that I feel like that's what turned the games around for me, not just, like, any great resilience inside of me.
Yeah. I think another fantastic message for people to understand of like how important, especially always who you surround yourself with, but at those kind of times especially, you know. I always think that Rich has a superpower of being able to just like turn off his feelings in between. Like he'll just turn on like Avengers, or at the last games that he competed at, we were watching Bluey in between, you know, like 'cause the kids weren't even there. He was watching Bluey. But that's a tremendous accolade, and I don't know, those friends should be tremendously proud, but I think it's cool. I don't know. One of my biggest takeaways from everything you've said so far is just like how honest and vulnerable you are about it. I think it's really, really cool for people to hear this kind of an insight. Because again, unless you do an interview like this, you don't get to hear this kind of behind the scenes, and all that they saw was, wow, she really rebounded. She kind of, you know, hit a trampoline and hit turbo mode. So I'm super appreciative of you sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I deserve no credit for that.
Yeah.
Like what you saw the first 5 events, that was me. Like the next 5 events, like that was God and the people in my life. Like, yeah, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And then of course, so again, back to my original question, I guess, like that was part of the springboard that got you, and it's always a work in progress, but to where you are now, which seems to be like tremendously in a healthy headspace.
Yeah, in a much better place. Like,
Yeah.
not that there aren't still struggles, and like, I don't know if I can be anything but vulnerable. But yeah, it is weird because you would think that understanding and believing what I believe would fix a lot of what I struggle with, but it really doesn't. And like, there are definitely like, I used to think like if I didn't desire to win above anything else, I wouldn't have struggles. And that wasn't true. Like, if, you know, even at Brood, it was like, you know, if I get out of this environment, I won't struggle anymore. That wasn't true. Like, there were some quick fixes, and then there were like things I've prayed about for months and like that I feel like were finally answered. And I was like, oh, like this is gonna fix everything. We're not gonna struggle anymore. And then it's like, still struggle. So I mean, there's definitely like, I don't think I'll ever get to a place in CrossFit or in life where I don't have to work through stuff. Like even when it's not rational, and like as I'm having these thoughts, I might understand that it's not. You can't always like change that being there. But if anything, like those struggles now, I think I'm in a healthier headspace with, because they point me to a dependence on God instead of like, what's wrong with me? I have to fix this myself. Let's like read all these self-help books and, you know, like feel like I've learned all these lessons and I can fix myself, and I'm going to like reframe my thinking. And not that stuff doesn't have its place. Yeah. But sometimes it's like, wow, I really hate that I'm struggling with this right now, but I have a God who is sovereign over this. And like, I don't want to have these thoughts, but you know, like whether in that moment dependence is like reading scripture and like trying to take my eyes off of myself and like the worry that I have, or whether it's like something about this is just like showing my own weakness, and you know, like my power is made perfect in weakness. Like, we know that is true. It's like, in some way, like however painful that is, the struggles still point me to dependence on God. The success comes from a dependence on God. So I do think I have a better handle on that now, like in times when I do struggle more, just because of the headspace I'm in, if that made any sense.
100%. Well, and the guarantee is that there's going to be struggles in life, and everybody's struggles are going to be different, but you're absolutely. But I think that where you've got a head start is that you've taken things, and the fact that it's on something eternal is massive benefit. But that you have extracted and made true for yourself, at least, that CrossFit is what I do, not who I am, and taking your identity out of that, or you're continuing to work towards that anyways. Like that, I think that's the most important part. I think that's where, because you're never going to be happy whether you're a 17-time champion or not. Like if you're constantly chasing something worldly or that you can't necessarily affect, and you're putting your identity into it, I don't think there's any way that somebody could find happiness in that.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's where you've got, that's where you've got your head screwed on straight. So
Thanks.
Absolutely. And the fact that you realize that, and I guess people don't see as much, like athletes are, for lack of a better term, they're needy at the games, as they should be. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of things athletes need, and it takes a huge like village around them of like their coach, their probably parents or family and friends there to like do everything they need, from, like you said, all those things, and like leaning into that so that you're not trying to do it on your own. And like Dom's gonna be there for you, know that you're Heather and Olivia, and then your parents are there who are awesome. And then our little crew here of Nina, Ness, Jate, Nina, Jess, and Nate. And then obviously Mayhem there with you as well, but like taking all those things so you're not doing it on your own. And when things are hard, like that's why people are there for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and even just getting to share those moments, like not just moments of struggle, like when you need to lean on people, but to get to share those wins with other people is really what makes them special. Like, you know, an event goes well, it's not like, what fun would CrossFit be if you just walked back into the warm-up area and was like, oh, that was great. Like, because it's not just my hard work that shows when I'm on the floor. Like, it's not just me believing in myself that shows. It's like, you know, it's Dom being in the gym with us day in, day out, like, you know, believing in me when I don't, sacrificing for me, like my friends just pouring into me, like listening to me often say the same thing over and over and over again, and like encouraging me and speaking truth in me through that. So to get to share the good moments with people who have like really seen the bad is special.
Yeah, I bet. And you've been really gracious with that, actually, about you know, at least on social media, from what I see, you're always kind of pumping up your crew and like, hey, the support crew behind me. So let's talk about that real quick. I promise I won't keep you here all day, but in the car on the way up here, me and Jake were talking. I think that the younger athletes are really unique in the sense that, like, you know, you guys still have a lot of learning, a lot of molding, a lot of, you know, you're even though you started at 10 years old, that was still a much closer time period to where most people kind of start and get competitively successful. So I'm interested to learn more about the relationship with Dom. And I guess my first question to Jake was, like, you know, with some athletes, you'll get a lot of pushback, or you'll get a lot of, you know, they're somewhat rooted in their ways, and it's sometimes a hard transition to either a coaching scenario or a different kind of training. So what's it like with Dom? Is it full board trust? Like every time he sends you something, you're like good to go, or is there a lot of back and forth? How do you guys work together?
One thing that I really respect about Dom is that he does want my input. It's not just him telling me, like, this is what we're going to do, you know, whether you like it or not. Like, and I have that kind of trust in Dom that I would be okay with that. But we do communicate about, like, what I feel like I need to work on. If I feel like, you know, lately my snatch positions have been kind of off, like, we're in conversation about this stuff. So it's not only him, you know, like making these decisions. Like, I do feel like I get some say in it, which does build trust. But yeah, like at the end of the day, I want to understand why I'm doing something. And I ask a lot of questions about that, like maybe to an annoying level, but Dom is great about answering that. Just, I feel like that gives me confidence, that gives me intention, purpose. Like, I like that stuff, to be clear. But yeah, like, I have the kind of trust in Dom that it's like, you know, what he tells me to do, I'm going to do it. When he gives me a strategy and I'm like, no, I think I can go unbroken, normally, like, you know, I'll listen to him, but if I don't, he'll be like, just prepare to blow up, and I'll be like, nah, and then I will. I'm like, I should have listened. But yeah, it is full trust. Like, it's a really, like, good relationship in that way. Yeah.
And I love that. And being that you, again, like, don't come from a different athletic background, you just named a few, I suppose, but what do you really see as the benefit of having a coach? Like you said, at 17, you really sought out, like, hey, I want to be coached.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was probably like, hey, yeah, you literally didn't know how to progress through strength, and you didn't know how to pair these movements, things like that. You probably got a good working knowledge of it now. So like, what's the benefit of a coach?
Talking more specifically about, like, an in-person coach. Oh, so many. Yeah. But like, one place to start is I used to not really, like, know when to stop myself on a day that wasn't going great. Like, I remember one day, and this was back when I was working with Matt, and I was a remote athlete. He lived in Naples. I lived in Missouri. He sent me programming. I'd send, like, notes, videos, feedback. Like, it worked really well. But I want to say, like, my snatches ended with a double at, like, 85 or 90% or something that is pretty doable. And I remember I missed like 17 times and like just could not stop myself. And finally, like, I text him and I'm crying and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, don't do another snatch. Like, I mean, and now it's like, yeah, this is so obvious. And then there was another day, something similar happened with deadlift. Like, of all things, if you can't pick it up, you can't pick it up.
Right.
Like, it's not like you're going to fix your positions or anything like you could on a snatch. So I had a really hard time making the adjustments, 'cause, you know, I felt like I should be a robot. Like, you know, I sleep this much, I eat this much, everything is perfect, everything is under control. I should be doing exactly what is programmed for me, and it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
And I mean, there's stuff that it's like, yeah, it's as simple as like, let's go down in weight. But sometimes it's like, yeah, you know, your position on whatever is looking kind of bad. Like, let's not even do these today. Let's switch this out for something else. Or like, yeah, we've done a lot of pressing this week. Let's not do any more. It's looking kind of slow. Like stuff that I might be like, oh, you know, I'm just going to be mentally tough and get through. Like there is a point when it's not smart to push yourself through that. So I feel like that level of intention is a big benefit to having an in-person coach and just the immediate feedback of it.
I love that because I feel like that's honestly, like even at an affiliate level with a non-competitive athlete, that's almost one of the most, well, it is one of the most important roles of a coach, in my opinion, is just a voice of reason.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like that ain't right. Like, look, we got a long-term goal here and this is about to harpoon it, and, you know, and you're going to not be back tomorrow or the next day if you do what you're doing right now.
Yes. But just speaking about having a coach in general, I think anybody who wants to be competitive really needs that level of intention. Like template programming definitely has its place, and that will get you probably really good. But most people will have like some very specific weaknesses that a template just wouldn't hit hard enough. Mm-hmm. And like if you do desire to be the best, like you need something that's as intentional as you can possibly make it. Like you need those 1% that working with somebody who really knows what they're doing will have. And I've actually never followed a template or anything. Like I wrote all of my own programming from when I was like 12 to when I was 15. Whoa. Had absolutely no idea what I was doing, so I just did it all. Horrible idea. Would not recommend.
Learned a lot though, I'm sure.
Did learn a lot, yeah.
You should publish that as a book at someday. Here's what not to do.
Yeah. I still have it.
Here's my accidental success through this.
It's ridiculous, but working with somebody who like genuinely knows how to fix those very specific weaknesses in a more sustainable way is healthy. Because it's like, you know, strict handstand push-ups aren't my best movement, and it might seem, especially to 12-year-old Emma, that how I should fix that is do like 150 every day. Like that seems like it would get you better. Like if you look at the numbers and you're doing like, you know, you count a couple rest days in there and you're doing like over 700 a week, you know, I'm thinking like, yeah, I can do that. Like this has to work. And maybe it would get you better, but it would probably just get you injured. And it's like the knowledge of a coach extends so far beyond me. Like Dom might not know what's going to get me better at strict handstand push-ups because he's never like had the opportunity to get me better at strict handstand push-ups before, but he's worked with a lot of other people who also struggled, and he knows what worked for them. And like that doesn't mean it's going to work perfectly for me, but it's a much better starting point than me just being like, let's do strict handstand push-ups to failure every single day, but actually being able to strengthen like the parts of the movement that I wouldn't necessarily have the awareness or the experience to think about. Like, I feel like that applies to whatever your weakness would be. Yeah,
that's fantastic. This is a hard right turn, but I have a 12-year-old girl. Oh. What was your, like, what were you looking at? Like, what made you, obviously you're in a CrossFit gym, but like, what took you from like, this is fun for fitness to like, I want to do this? Was it role models? Was it watching the games? Like,
it was watching the games.
Yeah.
I remember, because I believe I started CrossFit in May of 2014, and almost 10 years. That's crazy. But I watched like a local competition, and it was a bigger local competition, but still like, you know, pretty average people there. But I thought they were all incredible. And I remember telling one of the coaches at the gym, like, I want to do this. And he was like, have you ever seen the CrossFit games? Like, let me show you. And like was showing me videos of it and everything. And I was like, no, like I want to do that. And honestly, I have no idea why I thought I could do that. Like I was really not athletic, did not enjoy even pushing myself in any way. Like I thought it was hard, and like, why would I do anything that was hard? Why would I be uncomfortable? And now that's like the opposite of who I am.
Yeah.
So like, I really don't know why I loved it so much just immediately, and like had that passion for it. And not only like had the passion for it, but had the passion to do it very, very well. And like not just be the best I could be, but like try to be the best. That was there really from the very beginning of CrossFit.
Wow.
Even though I wasn't a competitive person, I'm still not. I mean, if I'm like playing a board game and I lose, I'm just like, oh, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like my competitiveness really extends beyond CrossFit. But yeah, it was just immediately like, this is what I want to do. And, even though I was 10, it stuck.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic. Yeah. Cause you obviously can't manufacture that. It's
Yeah.
just passion is passion.
Yeah.
And inspiration is inspiration. Yeah. But, yeah, I love to hear that. So I'll just have to expose my kids. I think it's less cool for my kids because their parents do it, Like,
yeah.
So I have to make it, maybe I'll just show them Emma, like, and walk out of the room, Unless you got anything else, we promise we're going to try and keep these around an hour. So I think like a great ending point, and hopefully we'll get to do this again because now we've got you around. We're coming up on the Open, and you've just obviously got tremendous momentum coming off of Wodapalooza. You've got this very hard-earned headspace. So are there goals? And if so, what are they for this coming year?
Yeah, like I always, it's weird to say out loud, but like I always want to win. And it would be really hard for me to ever have like deep down within me a goal that is like, oh, top 10 sounds nice, top 5 sounds nice. It's like I want to be the very best I can be at this. And like there is a big part of me that believes that that's winning. But like this year more than anything, I wouldn't really call that the goal or the purpose because I don't want to have like a double allegiance to winning and glorifying God.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't feel like that is the purity in heart that God wants from me. Like in the past when I've competed, I've always said like, oh yeah, I'm here to win and glorify God. And it's like, really what I was saying was like, I want to win and I want to do that for me. And at the end, I'll say glory to God. And like, I think that'll be enough.
Like you want to want things. You want God to want you to win.
Yeah. Yeah. So like this year, I really want to have open hands. And like, I would love for the end result of the season, like if it's winning, that would bring a lot of like happiness and like, it would show we're on the right track. We're doing a lot of good things. Like same for a podium spot or a top 5 or like really improvement from 8th. But more than that, it's like, I think I'm at a place now where I see that stuff's not going to bring me the satisfaction and the joy that I want. So like trusting whatever God has planned for me this season, like it's already planned out and I'm just going to do my work with excellence. Like try to glorify God with my effort, with my attention to detail. Honestly, like with the things that I feel like God has given me the ability to do really, really well. Like when I look around and honestly, like not to put anybody down, and I'm not talking about anybody at Mayhem, but like there's a lot of people who don't have those things just like in them like I do. So I feel like I can see those things and be grateful for them within me and like let that point me to God instead of being like, just because I feel like I have these things means that I have to win and that that's my only purpose in life. But just, be like, what a gift. Like I'm going to chase excellence and like do this stuff in a way that glorifies God and honors the gifts that he's given me and let the result fall where it will and, trust it's for my good.
That's good. And to give you even, I don't know if it's peace about it or just feel okay, like your goal should be to win.
Yeah.
At your level,
Absolutely.
your ability, your capability, potential, your goal should be to win, but that doesn't have to be your purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe that'd help you differentiate it, but like you should go in the season at the back of your mind, like what's the ultimate goal for competition? It should be to win, just
Absolutely.
with the framework of all the things you're saying about purpose and that too, so that either way it's okay, but I'm going out there to win.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're tremendously wise for your years. We love having you around. Like you talked about this, this community of people, like we couldn't be more happy that you and the way that you represent yourself is are around and part of it. And we get to hang out with you now. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely see you in the gym. But again, like we'll have you guys back. We'll have you back up here. So maybe folks at home, if you got questions for next time that go deep and meaningful beyond the competition floor, throw them in the comments. And otherwise, we'll let you get back to what are you going to swim today?
Yep.
Okay, we'll let you go. We'll get you go train, get some swimming in, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.